From extremely wide angles to thin depths of field, here are 5 lenses that I have found to be my personal favorite and great lenses for taking pictures of buses and trains. Greetings from Trainwizard. I'm Michael, your host. There is nothing wrong with the gear you have. People may say your camera takes great pictures, with no credit to you. But, in seriousness, the milkshake that draws all the boys to the yard is the eye behind the camera, not the camera itself. However, there are tools you may want that will help the eye behind the camera achieve the results that the brain behind the eye behind the camera wants. Don't judge or scream in the comments, or do, it helps with the algorithms. But I am biased towards Nikon DSLRs, as I've used Nikon cameras for all of my DSLR railfanning photography. Number 1. Nikon 28-300mm. This lens is a godsend to those who don't like switching lenses or carrying multiple bodies with different lenses on them, both of which can add unwanted weight to your backpack. I know I hate switching lenses constantly. The 28-300mm focal range makes an all-around great walkable lens. You can grab a telephoto shot of an oncoming bus or train and simply zoom out and get a great wide landscape image with the same lens. If you have an APS-C camera, your sensor is 1.5 times smaller than a full-frame sensor, so you would multiply the focal length of your lens by 1.5. The 28-300mm lens is more like a 42-450 lens. That will work in your favor if you want more telephoto reach, but you can't get so wide. For DX or APS-C cameras, most brands make lenses in the 18-200 or 18-300mm range. Number 2. 50mm f1.8. There are lots of 50mm prime lenses, and you can't really go wrong with any of them. I use the Nikkor 50mm f1.8G AFS lens. This is my favorite lens for more reasons than one. Its image quality is unmatched, it's small and lightweight. It opens up to f1.8, allowing for incredible low light sensitivity. It's very sharp at f1.8, along with all the other apertures, which are even sharper. It's the least expensive lens in this list. When you shoot at 50mm, you get the closest to your naked eye's focal view, meaning nearly zero distortion of lines and very pleasing images. For APS-C photographers, you can get a similar focal field of view with a 35mm f1.8 prime lens. Nikon makes one especially for DX cameras, but there are full-frame compatible 35mm prime lenses as well. Number 3. Irix Firefly 11mm f4. When I first researched this lens, I thought to myself that it should defy all laws of optics. It's made for full frame, but 11mm? That's wider than the 14mm or 16mm default focal lengths used by most wide-angle landscape and real estate photographers. This lens deserves its own video. This lens is not a fisheye. It is a rectilinear wide-angle lens, meaning all straight lines remain straight. Rectilinear lenses are always better. Lenses this wide are meant to exaggerate the perspective of the naked eye, making the background appear much more separated from the subject than a traditional 18mm or 24mm lens at their widest. The trick to shooting with this lens is to get all lines that you want straight, straight. Beware of the wide-angle distortion known as keystoning. This is when vertical parallel lines diverge or converge, like when you look up at a skyscraper. Except at 11mm, you will get the same effect on smaller scale subjects like interior architecture, trains, and station buildings. This 11mm lens will help you orient your images properly. This lens is a perfect lens for the Acela Express trains because 11mm easily makes them appear like the Japanese bullet train, an effect that I love. Number 4. 135mm f2. It's the longest lens faster than f2.8 that doesn't cost an arm, a leg, or a reproductive organ to own. Because of a fast f2 aperture, low light sensitivity is improved by a full stop for a medium telephoto compared to the 70-200 f2.8, another very popular lens. But the best part is a very thin depth of field that renders beautiful beads of lights called bokeh, buttercreamy blurred backgrounds. Most photographers use the lenses like these for portraits and headshots, and for very good reason. Many won't use it for rail fanning. I found the depth of field to make trains and trolleys look like miniature model toys. This lens deserves its own video. Number 5. 150 to 600 millimeters. I use the Tamron G2 version. It is big, it is heavy. If the 300 millimeter range in the 28 to 300 millimeter super zooms is not enough, or if the super zooms just aren't sharp enough, this lens provides the reach and the sharpness. This lens is great for birding and aviation photography, but it's also quite good for rail fanning, except in hot weather when heat distortion really messes with the compressed view, unless you like that type of thing. You can also use this lens for the sun and the moon too, especially when it rises and sets over a landmark or the tracks, and it looks huge when you're far enough away from that landmark.